Hi, my name is Erin. My team members are Kristen, Bilal and Hamid. The topics we have chosen are social disadvantage, behavioural issues and underperformance. Our case study is based on Billy, a 15-year-old boy in the 9th grade. He attends a co-ed school and has a passion for sport. Billy's teachers have noticed changes in Billy's school life. Billy's teachers have identified in a meeting that social disadvantages, underperformance and behavioural issues are affecting his performance in class and in the school community. Billy is disadvantaged because he has a part-time job due to his parents being divorced and his family is struggling financially. He has a lack of access to resources such as workbooks, pens, uniforms and textbooks. Billy is reluctant to follow instruction, talks out of turn and constantly disturbs the class. This has become a problem for his teachers as they are finding it difficult to deal with him. Billy is falling behind in most of his subjects, especially science, English and mathematics. He does not complete his homework and his results in his assessments and tests have declined. Billy does not bring resources to class, complains about being hungry and eats in class. He falls asleep and is always complaining about being tired.
Billy comes from a single parent home and has 2 siblings. He comes from a low socio-economic status area. He has a part-time job and has to help his mum out financially, and due to this has a lack of resources at school. Billy often comes to school without having eaten breakfast as he is helping make sure his little brother and sister are ready to go to school with lunch and have had breakfast. He needs to make sure his siblings are ready as they are much younger, and Billy's mum works at night and is asleep or not home from work when they are getting ready for school. Billy does not bring his resources to class. He never has a pen or book to write his notes in and is never properly dressed in full school uniform. Billy complains about being hungry and eats the little food he has during classes. He falls asleep or is always complaining about being tired. By Billy not bringing resources into class, he is unable to complete the classwork. This is adding stress to the teacher as she is worried about he is falling behind. Because Billy comes to class every morning hungry and eats his lunch for the day in first period, the teacher is worried he is not getting breakfast in the morning and is worried about his well-being and home life. When teaching socially disadvantaged students, it is important to know and respect them in order to understand their learning needs. Researchers have shown that students' sense of belonging can be influenced by individual factors such as gender, ethnicity, and socio-economic status, as well as situational factors including peer relationships and student-teacher interactions. Knowing and understanding the challenges socially disadvantaged students face can improve their overall success in the classroom. As teachers, it is important to show inclusivity and embrace students' diversity as a way to get to know students and enhance the learning needs of all students. Research have shown students with strong attachments to teachers demonstrate gains in academic achievement and have shown greater satisfaction in school. It is important to use clear and accessible language.
Research shows that students who feel their teachers encourage and support them are more committed to learning and have better academic achievements. Experts believe that these positive outcomes are the result of student perceptions of teacher support, which produces self-fulfilling prophecies that support student achievement in keeping up with these expectations. Billy's teacher should be encouraging and supportive of him, as well as provide verbal praise and positive feedback. This, along with having high expectations of Billy, will help him to believe in himself and improve his academic as well as his emotional outcomes.
One limitation is getting to know your students can be very challenging, and mainly so in large classes and across multiple smaller classes.
The second limitation is that many other factors other than teacher support and expectations can also impact upon students' academic outcomes. Things such as home life, motivation to learn, social emotional factors, peer values and mental health. Teachers cannot always influence these. Billy's teachers can suggest for the school to implement a program such as the school breakfast program, which provides products for schools to deliver healthy breakfast and emergency meals to students in need, or even as a whole school initiative. For Billy, this will enable him to have breakfast and help improve his levels of concentration and ability to learn. It also allows him to develop social connections and a positive attitude about school and alleviates some pressure financially for his family. Billy's teachers can also provide him with pens and workbooks for his classes. The school can provide Billy with discounted prices for second-hand uniforms and textbooks. This will help Billy to stay back on track in his classes and reduce some of the financial pressure on his family. The limitation of providing Billy with resources is that his teachers may have to pay for these themselves if the school cannot fund these initiatives. Schools also receive government funding, but sometimes these funds are not allocated to where they serve the best purpose.
Billy has become a problem for his teachers. He is reluctant to follow instructions, talks out of turn, and constantly disturbs the class. This has become a problem for his teachers as they are finding it difficult to deal with him. This has a toll on teachers. Many teachers feel unprepared to deal with disruptive behavior and believe this substantially interferes with their teaching. By Billy not following instructions and causing behavioral problems, it can cause the teacher to become under stress. As Thompson in his article mentions that nearly half of the teachers that quit their job cite student behavior as one of the main reasons for the decision. If Billy is constantly disturbing the class and not following instructions, it could lead to teachers becoming frustrated and irritated. Teacher reports of stress and emotional negativity are associated with student misbehaviors, and teachers express negative emotions in response to student behaviors on a routine basis. This stress is magnified when teachers have more than one or two disruptive students in a classroom. Even teachers who would normally cope quite effectively under less stressful circumstances may become harsh. Teachers who are overwhelmed by negative emotion express a lack of enthusiasm for cultivating positive relationship with their students and report becoming less involved, less tolerant, and less caring. One of the intervention strategies that Billy's teachers can use is a deliberate arrangement of the physical classroom environment, such as sitting arrangements should be implemented for Billy. This means that Billy should be sitting in a place where the teacher can directly see him and next to students that have desirable behaviors. Another intervention strategy Billy's teachers can use is to use verbal positive reinforcement for desired behaviors while also responding to Billy's undesired behaviors with a mix of subtle and punitive strategies. By teachers implementing positive reinforcement in the classroom, it will decrease the aversive behavior of Billy, decrease negative interactions while increasing positive interaction in the classroom. Our research has shown that a method of improving student behavior is to make sure students are familiar with class rules. Differential reinforcement can be used by the teacher to increase the occurrence of appropriate behavior by Billy. First, a behavior should be reinforced only when it is exhibited following an appropriate discriminative stimulus, such as talking only when the teacher asks a question and not reinforcing talking at other times. One of the limitations for interventions is that the deliberate arrangement of physical classroom is the view of educational psychologists and provides a poor basis to evidence-based practice. This does not mean that it is wrong, but it does mean that there is a need for these studies' findings to be validated by stronger evidence. Another intervention schools can use is the PBIS. PBIS is a framework which incorporates evidence-based interventions and practices that promote a positive school culture conducive to improved instruction for all students. The whole school can adopt this approach, and all the teachers in the school should go through professional development programs on the PBIS framework. PBIS improves social, emotional, and academic outcomes for all students. Part of the PBIS is the school-wide behavioral rules and expectations. Billy's school should have a clearly stated list of expected behaviors based on the commonly occurring problem behaviors observed across school settings. For each misbehavior, the school should identify a replacement behavior or statement about what do you want the students to do instead. Replacement behaviors should be stated in positive, observable terms and focus on behaviors that are age appropriate. Behavioral report cards provide feedback to students on their behavior. A report card can be provided to Billy which lists his behavioral problems, and the teacher can monitor and provide feedback to Billy throughout the day. This report card is sent home with Billy so his mother is also aware of his behavior. This intervention is perceived to be effective and efficient to implement in the classroom and proven to have positive outcomes for students with behavioral concerns. A limitation for PBIS is that schools need to take time to train teachers. Another limitation is that it can be a financial burden on schools, as teachers who are trained need to be paid. A limitation for behavioral cards is that students may forget them when they are taken home, or they may be damaged.
He's underperforming in most of his class. He's falling behind in most of his subjects, especially science, English, and maths. He doesn't complete his homework on time, and his results in his assignments and tests have declined. This takes a toll on Billy's teacher. She has to spend more time planning lessons. She'll also need to spend more time adjusting in class and out of class learning activities. She'll also need to engage in more reflective behaviours, which will need to affect her teaching practice. She also needs to spend more one-on-one time with Billy to see how he's coping. All of this may lead to stress due to the increased workload, which in turn may lead to burnout. The first intervention is a tutoring program or peer-assisted tutoring. In class, Billy's teacher would seat him next to a student who would help him during class. At the homework centre, he could get help for his homework and assignments from other students and teachers. The second intervention for underperformance will be task modification strategies. Billy's teachers will adjust his homework and assignments to match his ability while still adhering to the curriculum. This can also mean just breaking up his assignments into more parts over a longer period of time and setting homework tasks that are less lengthy but with smaller parts. Research shows that task modification strategies have improved student engagement, on-task behaviour and work completion. Differential instruction is also another intervention to help his underperformance. Billy's teachers should modify their teaching methods, resources and learning activities to meet his needs. This includes using a learner-centred approach to the teaching, also making use of small groups in the classroom and varying the learning resources and methods between them to facilitate teaching and learning. Linking the learning to Billy's interests will also help to engage Billy and facilitate his learning. This will benefit not only Billy but also the rest of his classmates. Teachers should aim to use differentiation in all their classes to benefit all their students. Positive student-teacher relationships will also be beneficial for Billy. Billy is at risk for developing negative student-teacher relationships for several reasons. Firstly, being male, also his behavioural concerns, and moreover he's underperforming in his classes and is from a low socioeconomic background. All these factors compound and mean that Billy can benefit greatly from positive student-teacher relationships. These have an impact on students' behaviour, their relationships with peers, attitudes towards school, school adjustment, school attendance, and academic engagement and achievement. Therefore, it is vital that Billy's teachers develop positive relationships with him. Research indicates that teacher support is important to student engagement in school. Students who perceive their teachers as creating positive learning environments where expectations are high, clear and fair are more likely to be engaged in school. Engagement is also linked to higher attendance and test scores. Developing positive student-teacher relationships should be a priority for all teachers in school, and this can be a whole school intervention. Self-management strategies can also be used as an intervention. These strategies are used in the classroom for individual students to learn to monitor and maintain their own academic and behavioural performance. Billy's teachers would work with him to teach him self-management strategies, such as how to monitor his own performance, set goals, both behavioural and academic, and how to measure and evaluate his progress. Students who had training in self-management techniques were found to have increased academic performance in maths, spelling, writing, and homework completion. Academic performance overall and homework completion improved with self-monitoring techniques, as well as improvements in on-task behaviours. There are limitations to these interventions. Firstly, for the task modification and differential instruction strategies, teachers are unlikely to accept strategies that require them to modify materials, change instructional practices, make long-range plans, or adapt their marking criteria, which are all meaningful differentiations. Also, some studies have suggested that positive student-teacher relationships do not appear sufficient enough to enhance students' academic achievement. Similar to the behavioural concerns interventions, the positive behavioural intervention and supports framework can be used for the underperformance throughout the whole school. Billy in particular may require second and third tier interventions, such as increased structure to improve his academic performance. Generally, PBIS improves social, emotional and academic outcomes for all students. Community involvement can also be used as an intervention strategy. Billy's teachers can suggest that he joins a sport team, for example the school rugby team. The National Research Council study looking into community programs for youth found that adolescents who spent time in communities such as sport teams that provided opportunities for development showed higher rates of positive development and experienced less risk. There are limitations to these interventions. The PBIS has its limitations too. Research has found that it does improve behaviour and attendance rates, but it did not have an effect on academic performance. Also, for the community involvement, the limitations are that there are financial costs, for example of uniforms, time constraints, for example if Billy has to go home and look after his younger siblings, he may not be able to make it to the training sessions. Also, training and games may take more time away from academic tasks such as homework, assignments and study time.
At the end of the term, Billy's teachers meet to discuss the intervention strategies they have put in place for Billy and how successful they have been. The teachers look at Billy's grades and notice there has been an increase in his results. This is due to Billy being more engaged in class, handing in his homework on time and not misbehaving or being disruptive. Billy is happier at school, is enjoying his classes more as he understands what he is learning and is able to complete the work.